Can you imagine if SpongeBob had never escaped rock bottom? What would have happened to him? Would he have mutated physically to adapt? Well, basically it'll be like moving from a quiet town to the sketchiest neighborhood in LA.
This is the worst.
Anyway, today we've got a wild theory for you. What would have happened to SpongeBob if he never made it out of rock bottom? First of all, forget about Krabby Patties, because SpongeBob wouldn't be flipping burgers for Mr. Krabs. We're probably talking about a SpongeBob who ends up selling drugs. Or worse, turning into a lookout for the local gang and blasting violent gangsta music all day.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for. This is exactly what I've been waiting for.
Nah, but seriously, just the fact that SpongeBob got trapped in such a dark, deep place would literally force him to mutate both physically and mentally in order to adapt and survive. Haven't you ever thought about it? This place is full of weird animals with exotic colors and insane sizes. So, what would SpongeBob look like? But before we dive into his physical transformation, let's figure out how his Bikini Bottom friends would react when they realize SpongeBob never came back from his visit to the glove world. Let's start with the useless old Patrick, who was basically the last one to see SpongeBob before he vanished. What would Patrick do when people ask about SpongeBob? Absolutely nothing! Like, Patrick wouldn't even realize if SpongeBob had been kidnapped, thrown into a volcano, or sucked into a black hole. He's so clueless that the only thing he'd do is to make his classic face. Then comes Squidward. Now, this one's way different. Just not in the way you'd expect. If you thought Squidward would be happy forever, nope. You disappoint me, my friend. The thing is, Squidward's shown that deep down under that dry and crusty heart of his, he actually cares about SpongeBob. He really sees him as one of his few actual friends. And I'm pretty sure that the moment he starts noticing SpongeBob's not around day after day, he'll feel this empty pit in his stomach, just like we saw in the Squidville episode. Now, let's talk about Sandy. If SpongeBob got lost in any season other than winter, there's a solid chance she would have rescued him fast. But if not... And lastly, there's Mr. Krabs. And we all know this Krusty guy only moves if it benefits him. Most likely customers at the Krusty Krab would stop coming because the food quality would tank. The only cook left would be Squidward, who of course makes patties that taste like dirty gym socks.
Gotta be honest with you, tastes like shit. Like fucking shit.
That would send Mr. Krabs' profits straight into the ocean floor. So right away Mr. Krabs would have no chance but to go look for SpongeBob himself to bring him back and save the business. Because if his money-making sponge escapes, he's gotta go get him back. And now we've reached the part where SpongeBob's body and mind would begin to change from being exposed to the rock bottom. And as Bear Grylls himself said,
as Bear Grylls says, first-class travel and 5-star accommodation or I won't do it.
Wait, that wasn't it, is it?
Improvise, adapt, survive.
Oh yeah, that's better. And to really understand what could happen to SpongeBob, there's this pretty wild theory most of you probably haven't thought about. What's up with that red fish at the end of the episode? How come he's the only one who understood SpongeBob without speaking that weird rock bottom fart language? Don't you think maybe he was once from Bikini Bottom too? And something like what happened to SpongeBob and Patrick happened to him also? Maybe he also took the wrong bus and got stuck down there. He looks like a regular Bikini Bottom fish, just mutated to adapt to the new ecosystem. That could be why he knew the only way to escape that nightmare place was with SpongeBob's balloon. Maybe he couldn't catch the bus back either, and he got trapped until he adapted. Which tells us that SpongeBob's body would have to adapt to this entire new environment and ecosystem, right? In real life, sea sponges can live in all sorts of parts of the ocean, no problem. So no, SpongeBob wouldn't die like a wimp. In fact, he'd get way tougher and way more badass. Say goodbye to the Super Weenie Hut Jr. SpongeBob's skin would have to toughen up a lot to handle the sea pressure in the rock bottom. Like, really tough. And what other changes do you think SpongeBob would go through? Just take a look at the kinds of weird creatures that live in the deep sea. These abyssal fish are super resistant to intense water pressure, with highly developed senses to help them survive and navigate these dark environments. Some even have enhanced eyes to see in pitch black. And of course, what really stands out about these fish is how some of them glow or have super flashy colors to lure in prey, just like the little light bulb on my buddy, the anglerfish. But actually, I think SpongeBob wouldn't just have tougher skin. His color probably wouldn't even be jello anymore. It'll be darker, so he could camouflage with the environment and not end up as some predator's dinner. There's no way he'd still eat the same stuff he did back in Bikini Bottom. Most likely SpongeBob would start feeding on the fossils lying around down there. And I'm not just making this up. National Geographic themselves said it. So you know, I'm not just talking nonsense. His voice would probably be deeper and full of those fart sounds. You know, if you don't remember, those kinds of sounds from Rock Bottom. SpongeBob also wouldn't be as cheerful and crazy as he was back in Bikini Bottom. That would have made him an easy target for bigger fish. He'd probably turn more serious and introverted, maybe even with a cold personality. I imagine him like SpongeGar, who was only focused on surviving. He might find very few friends, or anyone to hang out with day after day. Honestly, we don't even know what kind of job he'd have there, since we know so little about the place. There's definitely some kind of civilization. I mean, they had a bus station, so maybe they've got food spots or restaurants too. Or who knows, maybe the entire Rock Bottom is just one big restaurant. Maybe the fish there are constantly eating each other just to stay alive. The only other reference we have to this place is in the SpongeBob movie, with that awesome song, Now That We're Men, and the fish there were eating each other like crazy. So how the heck was SpongeBob supposed to survive this? Well, now we know he's got his tough skin, his camouflage, and he might just live off of fossils. Life in Rock Bottom is definitely pure torment. Would SpongeBob really survive there? I say yes! He's fast and slippery in case anyone tries to catch him. Plus, according to him, he can survive just by sponge water filtration. And that's actually true. The real problem would come if they finally remember he exists and rescue him too quickly. If they pull him out of Rock Bottom too fast, his new body might not handle it, and SpongeBob could straight up explode. That's why deep sea divers need decompression chambers when they surface, so they don't get seriously hurt. Same goes for fish. But now that I think about it, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. We've seen SpongeBob explode multiple times, or even have his bottom shatter into little pieces, and he just got taped back together and went on like nothing happened. Little by little, his skin would start to regain its color thanks to Bikini Bottom's sun. And I think it wouldn't take long before he remembers how to talk normally. And with the help of his super best friend Patrick, who was the first one to go help him, SpongeBob would go right back to being the same old goofball. In the end, the conclusion is that SpongeBob can adapt to survive, no matter where he is. He's practically indestructible. Unless you completely dry him out with a lamp like in the movie, until you spill your soda on him and he comes back to life. Man, SpongeBob really is powerful. But what do you think, friends? What other changes and mutations do you think SpongeBob would have gone through if he hadn't escaped Rock Bottom? Let us know in the comments.